test, 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 test.
test. Test, test, test. There's the chance to say that.
אנחנו נברך יה מעתה ועד עולם, מעתה ועד עולם, מעתה ועד עולם, הללויה. Hallelujah.
Mourning is the price we pay for having courage to love others. Even in grief, we know that the wonder of human life is too complex and too magnificent to be memorialized in endless pain. The gifts of spirit that our beloved Michael gave to us cannot be measured or weighed, nor can they be lost or even tarnished by time. Even in our darkest hours, we know that some of his light and his warmth will always be with us, bringing comfort and courage, and in the fullness of time, healing and peace. Baruchim habayim. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here today. We had hoped this day would never come. We've been waiting for it. Every week that I read Michael's name on the Mishaberach list was a week of blessing, because it meant he was still with us. But today we mourn, but we also celebrate the life that Michael brought to this world, to his children, to his husband, and to this entire congregation. Today you do a mitzvah, one of the greatest of God's commandments, to mourn the loss of a loved one. Michael could never repay you for being here for his family. But we know in his heart he is happy that your faces are here, your spirits are here, and they are comfort to our beloved Cantor David, Jean, Jason, Danielle. We remember Michael and join our hearts together to give comfort and strength to his family. Mourning is a time filled with many emotions and memories, both bitter and sweet. We begin our service with the recitations of psalms and prayers, thus linking Michael's memory, Michael's life, with the millennia-old tradition of the people Israel and the eternity of God. Our angels spend much of their time sleeping. In their dreams, they tear down the new houses by the sea and build old ones in their place. No matter how long they may sleep, 100, 200 years, 10 centuries is not too much. The first to wake up takes the torch that has been handed down, adds a drop of oil to the lamp, blesses the eternal light, and then recalls the names of every other angel. And one by one, as they are remembered, they wake up. For them, as for us, there is nothing more beautiful than memory. Today, we mark that beauty, the memory of Michael Serkin-Poole. It's a beautiful song, Walking to Caesarea. And Chava's going to sing it for us today.
Eli, שלא ייגמר לעולם, החול והים, רשרוש של המים, ורק השמיים, תפילת האדם, החול והים, רשרוש של המים, ורק השמיים, תפילת האדם. I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the water, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart, the sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart.
From Psalm 23, Adonai is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside still waters, and restores my soul. You lead me in right paths for the sake of your name. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You have set a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God forever.
Adonai roi lo echsar bino dashe yarbitseini al mei menuchot yenaleini nafshi shove yancheini b'magleit tzedek yancheini b'magleit tzedek l'man shemo gam ki elech begeit samavet lo ira ki ata imadi shivtecha umin shattecha hema yenachamuni Ta'arok lefanai Shulchan neged sorai Dishanta v'shemen roshi kosi revaya Ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai v'shavti beveit Adonai le'orech yamim Adonai roi lo echsar Adonai roi lo echsar
From Psalm 121, I turn my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your guardian will not slumber. See, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. Adonai is your guardian. Adonai is your protection at your right hand. By day the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. Adonai will guard you from all harm. God will guard your life. Adonai will guard your going and your coming, now and forever.
Esainai el heharim me'ayin yavo ezri Esainai el heharim me'ayin yavo ezri Ezri, Adonai, Ose Shamayim Ba'aretz Ezri Neim Adonai Ose Shamayim Ba'aretz Lai 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 lai
It is now my privilege to invite up Ellen Reichman to share a few words about her beloved friend, Michael Serkin-Poole.
The angels got ready. Moving from the East Coast to the West Coast turned out to be a bit like moving from Shanghai to the U.S. A bit like that. Different culture, different words for common items, different attitudes. Certainly, as Jews, we were in a tiny minority instead of a large majority. Thank you. In 1980, we joined a small Reform synagogue on Mercer Island at the time, and this is it. The attending rabbi had just left due to illness. The cantor became the sole spiritual leader. We took an immediate liking to Cantor David, young as we were then, enthusiastic, kind, and approachable. He put everyone at ease. David remained our spiritual leader, and a friendship began. As he worked with our kids to prepare them for their bar and bat mitzvahs, we became close. In the mid-1980s, David came out to the board and the congregation. Overall, it was well received. Overall. Our family, along with other families, demonstrated our support for David. David still has the letter our son, age 10, wrote at the time to support him. He remained at B'nai Torah for 40 years until he retired 2 years ago. Jim and I got to know his partner, Michael, who later became his husband. We attended their commitment ceremony. Their love for each other was palpable. It felt like a holy experience to be in their presence. Michael's soft-spoken demeanor, David's outgoing nature, always respectful and bringing out the best in each other. Always. David and Michael. Whenever we'd go out together, we'd close the restaurant down with conversation and laughter till they said, "It's time to go." Michael had a wonderful dry sense of humor and a refreshing way of looking at the world. He was also a very good listener. He looked into your eyes as if he was seeing your soul. David and Michael fought for equal rights for people who were gay and succeeded. Adopted 3 special needs children, Together they formed a beautiful family, and we were privileged to have dinners with the family when the children were young. Jean, Jason, Danielle, and now Danielle's fiance, Jeff. Michael happily took on the role of a full-time dad and husband, ran a household, fought for equal rights that his children were entitled to, and kept fighting and succeeding in changing legislation. They're close family. The years flew by. David officiated or co-officiated every significant event in our lives. The bar and bar mitzvah of our kids, their confirmations, each of our children's weddings, funeral for Jim's mom, and our 25th renewal of vows service. Michael usually didn't attend big events as crowds were not his thing, but he did come to our son's wedding. When you turn yourself inside out for people, you give them a gift. Vulnerability, honesty, and trust became the foundation of the relationship the four of us had, David and Michael. 2 years ago, David called to tell us Michael was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer with a grim prognosis. They spent time adjusting, learning about the best treatment options and lining those up, and making a move from Bellevue to West Seattle. When they were ready, we felt blessed to be let into their small circle. They accepted a Thanksgiving invitation at our home, and we had several dinners together in restaurants. During our visits, Michael never complained about his brutal treatments. He spoke openly about his illness and indicated he was ready to go. The most meaningful visit was March 23rd, shortly after Michael decided to stop chemotherapy and begin in-home hospice. Smiling, he greeted us at the door and said, "I got dressed up for you." And he looked and acted great. Once again, hours flew by, although we kept checking in with him to make sure he wasn't tired. At one point, David mentioned Michael's cancer. He started to say, "When we got cancer," and he corrected himself and he said, "I mean when Michael got cancer," only to have Michael correct him and said, "No, it's when we got cancer." David kept track of all his chemo appointments, all his appointments. He never left his side. Michael became his full-time job, only it was not a job for David. It was a privilege, an honor, to care for the person he loved more than anyone. Before we left, Michael presented me with a porcelain bouquet of flowers from his large collection. He said, "I want you to have this." And we hugged, and as we all hugged, I wondered if we'd ever see him again. But we didn't say goodbye, just how much we loved him. As Michael's condition worsened, David or Danielle did their best to keep us informed. 2 days before Michael left us, Danielle was able to read in her own words all he meant to her. She especially felt loved and special when he called her his pumpkin, just like David calls her princess. It took a while for the angels to get ready to greet a beautiful soul. He passed away Saturday, May 15th. You don't say goodbye to an undying spirit who made the world a kinder and gentler place. Instead, you whisper, "Thank you." Thank you, Ellen.
I would now like to invite up Ed Murray, former Seattle mayor, to share a few words about this incredible man that he came to know.
Thank you, rabbis and Temple B'nai Torah, for bringing us together to honor Michael. While we are sad today because Michael is no longer with us, it is good once again to gather as community and mourn. David, Jason, Danielle, Eugene, on behalf of my husband Michael, and I know many people who love you, thank you for what you have done as a family to improve the lives of so many others. And know that we will be there with you as we have in these past years, particularly this last very difficult year. I'm honored that Michael Serkin-Poole asked me to speak about an aspect of his life that he cared deeply about, his commitment to political change. On May 1st, Michael posted for the last time on Facebook. And while I don't think Facebook's a good measure of many things, I do think his posts that day reflected who Michael was as a person, as well as his political commitments. One was a photo of Ella Fitzgerald in jail in 1955, the year that Michael was born. She had been arrested because she had performed in front of an integrated audience. The others were from a Hollywood blog posts with details about Olympias Dukakis's death, as well as one of the original Musketeers. To tell Michael's story of his commitment to others, I really want to go back for a moment, 28 years to a winter in Olympia, to a legislative hearing that then Representative Cal Anderson was holding on what would become known as the LGBT Civil Rights Bill. The crowd was incredibly large and incredibly hostile. And as a result, Cal moved us into the floor of the House of Representatives. Despite segregating the opponents and the supporters of the bill in different galleries, it continued to become a very nasty situation. It was, as my husband said, one of the most frightening nights of his life. He was in the wrong gallery. At the height of the tension, and literally people were throwing things down on the floor of the house from the gallery because the people testifying were sitting there. And the hate was only increasing. And at the height of it, David stood up on the house floor and began singing in Hebrew. And my first reaction was, Jesus, get him out of there. And my second reaction, sorry I said that in this juicy. My second reaction was I just saw the most incredible political strategy of my life. And it was. It broke the tension and changed the room. But that's not the point of this story. Sitting in the right balcony was Michael Serkin-Poole. He was there not just to support David, but to show up for a cause that he believed in. It was Michael Serkin-Poole and others like him whose courage and willingness to show up changed this state and this nation more than any of us who got the attention. It was Michael, who made civil rights and marriage equality and having a family in this state a possibility. Michael had always been political. He told David that he always knew he was gay, and he was always out, despite the price he paid and the suffering he experienced in the schools of the 1960s and 1970s. In his teens, he handed out literature to the Dorian Group, one of the first LGBT organizations in the state. Think about it. It was the 1970s. He was a teenager, and it was just the beginning of our movement for equality in the state. How he lived was a reflection of his political commitment to help others. Without Michael, David would not have been able to make his very public contribution towards equality. Michael's 40-year commitment and marriage to David was a political act as well as an act of love. His parenting of Jason, Danielle, and Eugene, as was his participating as a member of this synagogue in this Jewish community, as was volunteering for HIV/AIDS issues in political campaigns. But perhaps Michael's most political act, along with David, was to file a lawsuit challenging this state's so-called Defense of Marriage Act. They did that along with their lawyer, now Senator Jamie Peterson. They became, along with their children, the public face of marriage equality. Michael knew there were risks, the public attention it would draw, and an outcome that was uncertain. While that famous court decision went against us, Michael understood that it was a significant step that had to be taken if we were to reach the goal of all of our families being treated equally in this state and in this nation. His commitment to David and his children, to the LGBT community, and to this community was in part because he saw others hurting, and he saw his participation as a political act. Gentle, quiet voices can bring down the mightiest walls of oppression and discrimination. Michael's did. That gentle voice of love is his legacy to us and our inheritance from him. I tried to find words that Michael would say to us as we mourn today. I decided that he would really like if I quoted President Biden's favorite poet, the Irish poet Seamus Hennessy, because I think these would be the words that Michael would say to us today. So hope for a great sea change on the far side of revenge. Believe that a further shore can be reached. It is reachable from here. Believe in miracles and cures and healing wells. Thank you, Michael.
I feel honored to share a few words that Danielle wrote about her father. Danielle wrote, "My dad, Michael, is funny. He always used to say, 'What are grandmas for?' And I would respond, 'Because they're good at it.' Michael and David adopted myself as well as my brothers Jason and Jean, and together we formed a perfect family unit. Highlights of my upbringing included traveling to Israel as a family. My favorite vacation was when we went to Hawaii. Enjoying going to movies as a family. David barbecuing on Jewish holidays. When David and Michael got married. Both my dads were present the first time my fiance Jeff saw me. The memory I will cherish the most is when Michael called me his pumpkin. This nickname made me feel loved and special. Thank you, Michael, for creating the above memories with me. I love you. Please rest in peace until we meet again."
And to David. 2 years ago, nearly to the day, we, your TBC family, were preparing a celebration to honor you. We were brainstorming a fitting salute for 38 years of talented and steadfast service to our congregation. You were going to retire to fanfare. The high holidays were to be your swan song. And once they were over, we all had a clear yet whimsical image in our heads of you and Michael riding off into the sunset on your newly acquired RV to trek cross country and spend some quality time with each other. The kind of free time that you never had while working full time as a spiritual leader and musical genius of Temple de Natura. But as spring turned to summer, that beautiful picture began to fade. I remember you calling me shortly after I had officially started to say that there was something wrong with Michael, that he would need some tests run, and that you didn't quite know what was wrong. But you were clearly concerned. A shadow hung over your normally bright, energized face. I remember the horror-struck look on congregants' faces when you shared with them that Michael had pancreatic cancer. But you, the consummate professional and spiritual leader that you are, took it upon yourself to try and cheer all of us up. You talked about Alex Trebek and the wonderful folks at the Seattle Cancer Care Alliance. And you threw yourself into your move to West Seattle while taking over a full-time caregiver job to your beloved, the man who has always taken such good care of you. A few months after you had settled, you and Michael invited my husband Ben and I out to dinner. We were so pleased, if not completely astonished, when you said that we should bring Jacob, who was just a little more than a year old at the time. You took us to this beautiful restaurant, the same one where you and Michael had been married. Hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst, as one always should with a toddler, we were astonished by the ease with which you and Michael put up with Jacob. I'm pretty sure that several pieces of silverware were thrown throughout the evening. But you and Michael were unfazed. In fact, Michael seemed delighted in the presence of a little one and had some sage parenting advice for both Ben and I. I remember both of you looking at Jacob and saying that having children is what makes life worth living. Jean, Jason, and Danielle, I know that I don't have to tell you this, but your father, Michael, was a tzaddik. He was one of the truly righteous. He loved being your father and counted each of you as a blessing. Michael, although my little one Jacob will never remember it, I am so happy we got to meet you. You and David are the paradigm of loving, engaged parents and set such a great example for both Ben and me. David, that evening as we watched the two of you, both Ben and I discussed how it was like having dinner with just one person. You and Michael were so simpatico, so complimentary, you finished each other's sentences. You were so gentle and supportive and loving of one another. You reminisced about your wedding, which had taken place in that very room. And as Ellen said, the love was palpable. For the past many months, I liked imagining the two of you sitting in your lounge chairs in West Seattle, maybe in a pair of slippers, holding hands, and making the most of your time together. You told me that these last 2 years, despite the pain and hardship, were a kind of blessing, with incredibly special moments for you and Michael. I hope that is what will help you heal the void and bring you peace in time. And now, David, if you will allow me, I want to do something rather unusual. I would like to finish by reading something that I have never read on any occasion, especially a funeral, because I have yet to find someone who truly typifies the words and the sentiments. But today I would like to, with appropriate pronoun adjustment, honor Michael's memory with a version of Eshet Chayil. A good husband who can find one. His worth is far above rubies. The heart of his husband trusts in him, and nothing shall he lack. He renders him good and not evil all the days of his life. He opens his hand to the needy and extends his hand to the poor. He is robed in strength and dignity and cheerfully faces whatever may come. He opens his mouth with wisdom. His tongue is guided by kindness. He attends to the affairs of his household and eats not the bread of idleness. His children come forward and bless him, his husband too, and he praises him. Many husbands have done superbly, but you, Michael, surpass them all. Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a God-revering man is much to be praised. May he always be credited for the fruits of his labors and his achievements, and may his memory live on in glory. Amen. We would like to end with the singing of El Maleh Rachamim, the prayer that asks God to bind up Michael's soul in the bounds of the eternal life. Please rise.
רחמים שוכן במרומים המצא מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה עם קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים את נשמת מיכאל בן שרה שהלך לעולמו אנא בעל הרחמים יסתירהו בסתר כנפיו לעולמים ויצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתו אדוני הוא נחלתו וינוח בשלום על משכבו ונאמר אמן.
God of abundant mercy, God most high, may the soul of our loved one who has gone into eternity find the gift of perfect peace in your embrace, together with the holy and pure, whose light shines like the radiance of heaven. Compassionate God, hold him close to you forever, so that his soul may be bound up in the bond of eternal life. May he find a home with you, and may he rest in peace. Together we say, Amen. We will now move to graveside interment for Michael. I believe that Sunset Hill is only about 5 minutes drive from here. Whoever would like to accompany us, you're invited to do so. After the interment, we will gather back here outside for a little reception. Again, thank you all for coming. Thank you for being here for the family. And David, Danielle, Jason, Jean, Thank you so much for allowing us to honor your father in this way and for sharing his life with us. Thank you all.